morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Monday. I hope it finds you well out there. You know, I guess the end of the holiday season is now officially here. Yes, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, college bowl games, the Super Bowl. We had the Waste Management Open. All of it is now behind, and so many things to talk about. Kind of boring, right? That game last night. Well, let's just say the Eagles, they whooped them to the point where Jason and I were talking a little bit about it, and I was like, I had the game on in the background while I was doing a puzzle. That was how little I was entertained by it. I didn't really see remember the commercials used to be a big deal and all that. I didn't really see very many. I did see a Bud Light commercial. And I'll just say that I'm glad somebody from Budweiser figured it out. That, very manly commercial for Budweiser. So maybe we can now drink Bud Light again. I don't know. I don't really drink beer, so I don't care. But that was really... I guess for me, what was the highlight of the Super Bowl? I guess it was that was probably it, because that game was over way before halftime. Speaking of not over, though, it's a new all-time record high in gold. We had a feeling gold was not going to be in the 2,800s very long. It wasn't. Well into the 29s, obviously. 3,000's the next target. Get yours before it's 4,000, 5,000. Who knows? Stratospheric buying going on in China, especially, but really all over the world. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And Jason, it's been a crazy start to the Trump administration. Let's face it, a lot of headlines. The biggest probably was the fact that starting today, tariffs on aluminum and steel are coming to the new tariff war that's going on. China, their tariffs start today as well. By the way, when he talked about steel and aluminum, Mexico and Canada are included on this. So it looks like it is going to be, for those two items, 25% tariffs across the board, and we don't care who you are. Then turned around and started to take aim. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. If you're going to charge us 130% on something and we're charging you nothing, well, it's not going to stay that way. So it's going to be very interesting to see exactly how the tariff war plays out. Right now, Mexico and Canada got about 20 days left. Not quite, because it's February, so it's, but about 20 days left there. He's already put Europe on notice. But Jason, once again, this is starting to push prices when we look at things. As an example, India, they got a 60% duty on U.S. cars. Hefty tariffs on agriculture, right? Europe, same thing. The motorcycle tariff, right? I call it the Harley-Davidson tariff, right? The 50% tariffs. They're good headlines, but overall, I think the main thing here is a lot of people now are saying, okay, maybe we need to be more realistic about exactly what inflation's going to do. A lot of articles over the weekend saying get ready for inflation to go back over 4%. So that's a big move, right? And of course, if they're saying 4, well, then it's probably 8. And again, I think that this isn't just an egg thing. This is what happens when the whole world prints too much money.
Yeah, gold is, even though people think gold is reacts to inflation, gold tends to be a leading indicator, and it's been doing nothing since last year, just pushing and pushing and pushing with a relentless push upward. Gold over 2,900, pushing to 3,000. And Joe, I don't know, 3,000 is this big number everyone's looking at, but we thought 2,500 was a big number, or 2,750 was a big number. If it pushes past 3,000, it could just keep going, and it's, I think, a signal of something really awful getting ready to happen, Joe. That's all there is to it. Gold going up means you protected yourself when you bought it, because economically things are getting ready to go south for any number of reasons. And I don't see it. It's just not letting up, Joe. It's not letting up. It's being pushed upward, and I don't know, Joe. It's a little scary, isn't it? It's a little scary how it just keeps going.
It's so hard when you see the demand from countries, because they buy on a scale that's so overwhelming. When we talk about, last year, think about this. We almost hit 5,000 metric tons in a single year. We only mine like 3,300 metric tons. That's huge. The Patriot Radio News Hour, the Dow's up 75. The S&P's up 30. The NASDAQ's up a couple of hundred. The 10-year note down just a pinch here, just below 4.5. Crude oil is up about $1 right now today, but still pretty low in the lower 70s. Gold right now up 47. 29.08. Silver's up 30 cents. 32.07. Of course, if you guys are the TV guys, right, the April gold contracts, 29.40. How long am I going to stay in 29s? I don't know. The silver, this is a March contract, kind of getting closer now. You'll see as February draws to a close that silver contract will adjust, and they'll go farther. They'll go to a May contract or a June contract. But right now, the March contract, 32.64. So still, silver's got another 50 cents, almost kind of built into the cake here as February rolls on. Like I said, don't be surprised to see $35 silver very, very soon, as, again, the trade wars starting to heat up. We did hear from McDonald's today. Disappointing. This is weaker than expected sales here in the United States, saying that, again, net sales were flat compared to a year ago. So, Jason, even McDonald's now saying, listen, it's just getting tough. It's getting tough out there. The consumer, let's face it, McDonald's probably does a lot more of the working class consumer than anybody else out there. And big news out of the credit card companies. Credit card debt hit a new all-time record high. At the same time, the amount of interest that they are charging also hit an all-time record high. The fastest growth we've seen in credit card demand. I'm going to say Christmas, right? That's probably what it is. But they're now talking about a lot of consumers at 30%, well, 29.95%. Wow, that's just insane to me. Declining savings rates, which now are near a record low. So that's a big change. Remember when COVID hit, right? Everyone got checks. The savings rate spiked that appears to be done. But get this, just under $41 billion in December alone. Like I said, that is the biggest number ever, and it isn't very close when we think about it. So between McDonald's and what how much credit card debt exploded in December, kind of ominous here, right? We're waiting to see the effects, right? This next jobs number, we'll see what happens with the government. At the end of the weekend, we've now gotten 65,000 that say they'll take a buyout, but that is being held up by courts. The courts are saying you can't do it. We'll have to wait to see what happens. But Jason, it definitely is one of those things where a lot of people are starting to talk about, which Jason has been saying this really for, a couple of years now, when talking about you felt like, hey, the reason why they put Biden in there, they weren't ready to blow things up, right? They weren't ready to take it all down, and now they got him back in place because that's what's coming. Is they plan to, I guess, take it down on Trump's watch, so to speak. I don't know that, and I'm always like, I'm not sure about that, but boy, a lot of talk about that over the weekend, about how much confidence does the world actually have in U.S. Treasuries, and then Edward Dowd, amongst others, talking about this deep worldwide recession that people are now saying that we may be sitting on the precipice, that the U.S. economy, the job market is getting ready to crack. The fact that the Trump administration, they got to save money somehow, right? They're trying. Let's fire people, offer them buyouts, stop payments. I heard over the weekend, Doge is saying, hey, there may be as much as $50 billion fraudulent Social Security checks. Hey, listen, I want to save that $50 billion. Heck yeah. I mean, that's by far the biggest number we've seen out of Doge. Nothing really has even been close to that. But then again, I started thinking, well, wait a minute. That's going out to somebody spending that money. What would happen if all of a sudden you weren't spending? Think about December's credit cards jumping $50 billion in December. Jason, that's a lot of things. And I think a lot of people are now starting to worry that, Trump's cutting off all the crappy stuff that the government was spending money on. And if this starts to add up, like I said, $50 billion by far the biggest, we're going to have a problem, right? And then, of course, you throw the tariffs on top of it, and all of a sudden people are saying that, hey, this recession, the inverted yield curve right now, what are we now? 4 months in now since the yield curve uninverted. There's a lot of chatter about homes now, people unable to pay mortgages. The percentage now, almost 20% of the home market now, you're over 6% in your mortgages. Jason, I don't know. Is this one of those things where there's this moment? I don't know what it is, right? Call it a black swan, a white swan, a gray swan. I can put it whatever color swan you want to put on it. But there's a lot of people, because we already know, listen, Japan's struggling, South Korea's struggling, China is struggling. They're struggling. Europe's a mess, right? An absolute mess. Matter of fact, what did they do? They're still lowering rates, right, to try to stave off their economies. Canada, right, they're a mess. Mexico's a mess. Mexico wants to nationalize their oil and their silver mines. Jason, I don't know. This may be that setup here that you've been talking about for years. And it's one of the things, like I said, I don't know that Trump can save it because the mess that has been put upon it. Let's face it, they've been putting us in this mess for like 50 years. I mean, but once COVID came around, I mean, I liken this to like an aging. Next thing you know, we were the elite athlete. Now we're starting to get a little banged up, getting a little nicked up. We're popping pills to stay on the field. We're getting shot up, right? And it's still not working. Now we're taking steroids, right? Jason, we're doing everything we can to stay afloat. And now Trump's got to say, okay, well, listen, we got to stop taking the steroids. We got to stop taking the pain pills. We got to stop doing this and stop doing that. And all of a sudden, if you do that, it's a worldwide recession.
Yeah, Trump is, I think, ideally positioned to be the president during a massive collapse in the markets because, Roy, people remember just the influences that Trump had. Roy Cohn, the lawyer, early in his career, he's the guy that taught him that, you always claim victory, you always win, and you never admit defeat, you never admit failure, right? There's going to be a massive market crash in the next couple of years. Something major is going to happen. I believe there'll be some sort of an event to try to cover it, and perfect for Trump or any president. You got to blame somebody else, and Trump is the best at saying it's somebody else's fault. I didn't do this. That was China's fault. It was the Fed's fault, or it was he'll blame whoever needs to be blamed when things go bad. And yeah, I think after the COVID emergency, I don't think the result of having whatever is going to happen coming up was going to happen during his second term. So in my mind, they put his second term on hold. You had sideways action, 4 years of Biden. I mean, it was not that much different than 9/11, right, Joe? And then the housing crash with Bush. Obama came in. He had 8 years of sideways action. Then we got Trump, and here came COVID, right? The FOIA request from 2010 of $29 trillion is what they actually printed to fix that housing crash. The numbers they admit about U.S. currency in circulation in this country is $2.3 trillion. But they also admit that in 2020 and 2021, there were $6.5 trillion printed, right, Joe? So if you go with that number, they printed twice as much currency in 2020 and 2021 that they admit to actually floating around in this country today. And gold's at 2,900 and just keeps climbing. This stuff is happening. It's going to happen. They have the perfect guy in office so that when things are going bad, he'll reassure the public that, it's okay because it wasn't our fault. It's somebody else's fault. Let's go blow up Iran or whatever it's going to be, right, Joe? It's absolutely happening. Gold prices is a flight to safety. It's a flight to put yourself outside the moneyed vultures that caused this stuff to begin with. It's why I got it. The only reason I'm sitting here is because I understand this, and there is no such thing as too expensive gold. When you see gold at $3,000, you see gold at $4,000. There's no such thing as too expensive. If you can get a little bit of silver, you can get a little bit of gold. If you can buy a lot of gold, if you can buy a lot of silver, It's hard to really get the audience to understand this, Joe, but this is a great time. This is probably the best time to be buying. It's when other people are shy to buy. People are worried about buying gold right now. If you got it, put it in here. Don't be distracted by the shiny new thing of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and all this other crap. Gold and silver is what's going to get you through what's looking like, Joe, is going to be an awful, awful couple of years financially.
Yeah, incredible what we're seeing. Like I said, when countries they buy by metric tons, right? When the citizenry buys, hey, I'm buying 5 ounces, 10 ounces, maybe an ounce, right? Hey, I'm a big hitter, right? I'm going to buy 50 ounces, right? I mean, 100 ounces, something like that, right? They're buying 32,150 ounces per ton. The demand last year just missed 5,000 metric tons. We mine like 3,300 metric tons. And right now, believe me, every gold miner in the world is getting every ounce of gold out of the mine that they possibly can. Prices are elevated. But Jason talked about good and bad times to buy. COVID, bad time to buy. Great time to sell, bad time to buy. Why? Because there was no physical metals to be had. And you saw premiums, right? We had silver at $18, and you were buying silver eagles at $35. I mean, right? Those are the types of things. In my 20-plus years of doing this, and I told Jason this morning, this is the best buying market I've seen. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Monday. And we've got a really good special for everybody out there for 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles. We call them the Golden Dimes. They are, why do we call them the Gold? Well, they're the size of a dime. And each one of them is 1/10 of an ounce. So if you get 10 of them, right, you've got an ounce. We are the cheapest in the country right now. That I was looking everywhere. All the cheap online guys. We're right there. $340 per coin. If you buy a roll, I'm going to knock off $5. So a roll of 50, they come 50 in a roll, is $16,750. And it's so funny because I was like, I want to say when I first started, a roll of 10th ounce was like $1,800. I mean, now they're on sale at $335, 1 through 49, $340, 50 or more at $335 at 800-951-0592. And Jason, most of you're talking 460, 470, or 360, 370. I even saw a couple places are at $400. Save while you can here. 800-951-0592. One of the interesting things for this week, we're going to get CPI and PPI. So another inflation report. CPI on Wednesday, PPI on Thursday. It's going to be one of those things right now that they are expecting another higher print when it comes to the CPI. I think that's going to be fueling more gold and silver, higher prices. By the way, inflation expectations are now up to 4.3%. So that is much higher than we sit right now. We'll have to see. I'm hoping. Obviously, I don't think the CPI number is going to come in at 4.3. I mean, that'd be catastrophic. But again, I think we're going to see a good chance that headline number probably going to be up above that 3%. It's going to be really, somewhere between 2.9 to 3.1%, and hope it's not more than that. But again, people talking about what's inflation going to be this time next year, 4.3. So not a lot of confidence that inflation's going to be getting better Remember, Scott Bessent, the new Treasury Secretary last week, says, listen, we're not going to focus on inflation. We're not going to focus in on the Fed and whether they're going to cut rates or not. Instead, we're going to try to figure out how to try to keep this 10-year note down, Jason. And I only know one way to do that, which is issue less 10-year notes, right, and issue more short-term stuff. I mean, that's kind of what Janet Yellen was doing.
But that wouldn't force the rates down if they print any at all then, right? If you slow it down, right, and then you just print less, then at some point when you go to print them, then that just come out with a higher price, right? I mean,
that's what happens, yes.
And on the 20-year note, which is something...
Reinvert the yield curve, I guess. Is that what Scott Besant's trying to say? Let me reinvert it.
Well, that 20-year note hitting 5% like a week or two ago, just briefly, I mean, we don't do 20-year notes. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to stop it in any. You've been saying for months and months that it's going to hit 5, and where's it? What is it? You just said where's it at? 4.8? Where's it at now? 4.7?
Well, yeah, right now it's at 4.5.
4.5. Okay,
and we'll see what happens. Right. It got like to 4.8, right, and then things kind of cooled off when Trump said, "Hey, I'm going to give a reprieve to Canada and Mexico." Now the reprieve's gone, right? All of a sudden, here comes more tariffs, and we're going to continue to watch how this plays out. But I want people to understand, in 1913, when they created the Federal Reserve, our debt to GDP was 3%. What was our debt to GDP? 3%. By the way, the Roaring '20s, you know why the Roaring '20s came about? 1917, we went from 3% to 13%. Hey, why? Because the Fed said, let's print the money. 1918, of course, we have the flu, World War I. It jumps to 30%, right? Then it starts coming down. By the time 1930 rolls around, we're at 16% debt to GDP. By 1937, we were at 40%. Right? And then, of course, what happens? World War II. Right? World War II starts, boom, boom, boom. We go 1943, 69%. By 1945, 103%. Then we topped out 1946 at 106%. By the time Nixon closes the gold window, the debt to GDP is around 27%. Okay. We hit the low in 1974 at 23%. By 1984, it's back to 33%. By 1994, we are at 47.8%. By the time we get to 2009, we're at 50%. Right? Jason was talking about how much money they created. By 2012, we were at 70%. So think about when gold during that time, right? Gold hit the new all-time highs. Well, we went from 50% debt to GDP to 70%. Then it kind of slows down. You get to 2019, we're still in the 70s, 79%. 2020, yep, you guessed it. 99%, and guys, we're getting ready to take out 100% to GDP. But this time, we're not in World War III or World War II. And it only gets worse from there. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back. 800-951-0592. And, well, maybe we're here. I'm actually going to say that I'm okay with this one because this just really highlights where we're at. The Trump administration instructing the Treasury to stop minting pennies, citing wasteful spending. For far too long, the U.S. has minted pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents. I think we're up to 3 now. This is so wasteful. I've instructed the Secretary of Treasury to stop producing pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. And guess what? The U.S. Mint, I was even wrong. They said that in their annual report, it cost 3.69 cents to produce and distribute a penny, saying that the United States loses $2.69 per coin from the federal government. Last year, 250 billion pennies were circulated. The total mint loss for pennies, $85 million. So we're finally admitting, think about it. The penny used to be made of copper. Right now, obviously, how much of this is the I don't even know what they use, the slag, the cheapest thing they can find to make a penny. You got to remember, this is also distributing the penny, right? So it's not just making it, but hey, we got to get it out there. We got to get it to banks. Cost almost 4 cents. Why do I believe this? It was copper. What would it cost? 6, 7, 8 cents, right, to print, produce, and to distribute a copper penny. So, Jason, I think we're getting closer, right? These are things, right? What comes next? Well, what about the nickel? By the way, already, according to Kyle Bass, Jason, we may be spending more to make nickels. Of course, I don't think we put nickel in the nickel anymore. I think we stopped doing that a long time ago. But this is just what debasement does, right? Over time, when you print so much money, it no longer makes any sense to even produce it. When you can't even produce it, what does it tell you about the value of that currency, right? When they're just, are we going to get to the point, well, gosh, producing a $1, it's too costly. Let's just get rid of that, right? I mean, we're probably coming to that point a lot sooner than people think.
Yeah, it's about 2 cents more worth of metal value in a copper penny versus a zinc. It's not too far away where a zinc penny has almost a penny's worth of zinc in it. I don't even know if you can repurpose zinc pennies or not because it's got the little copper shell on it. So there's almost enough zinc in the zinc penny to the metal value of a zinc penny is almost more than the penny, which shows you how far we've gone, Joe.
Yeah, well, a lot of people like the 82 and older pennies because those are the ones that actually have copper in them, and they're worth way more for its copper value than it was for a penny. And then when you put distribution cost on top of it, right, that now all of a sudden I have a hard time arguing with the logic. That's just what they've done, though. I mean, that's just the realities of it.
Well, it's about the face value of the coins, Joe, really. If we didn't have a central bank ripping us off and the inflation that ensues, a penny used to buy you quite a bit. You just go back 100 years and a penny was super valuable. You could buy a whole lot with a penny. People don't understand that, but the inflation of the penny is something you can see how our country has slowly been falling. A penny used to be as large as a quarter. It's called the large cent. And right about the time of the Civil War, we had some good decades after Andrew Jackson got rid of the bank. Well, the bankers kept pushing, and they kept making it hard for the citizens to have money in circulation because our banks were in league with the Bank of England. So they at about the time of the Civil War, they shrank it down to the small cent that we have now, the Indian head penny, right? And that was still worth a penny, right? That was worth a penny for a long time, until 1982, after the gold was taken out, after the silver was taken out. They took the copper out. Now, there's still a lot of copper in the nickel. 75% of the nickel is copper, and there's copper in the quarters and dimes. You know, they have the copper nickel, the nickel copper sandwich that they make dimes and quarters and half dollars out of. But the face value is so much higher than the copper content that those coins will never catch up. Until there's hyperinflation, there won't be more metal in the quarter than and Joe, I don't know. Maybe this is why we're pushing for a cashless society, because you can't have under hyperinflation the 25-cent quarter, which I think has. I think it has like 7 cents worth of metal or 6 cents worth of metal. It wouldn't take a much hyperinflation that suddenly every coin that's in circulation's got more metal in it. Right, than the face value, and that's what the penny's all about. I mean, in 2013, that's when Canada took pennies out of circulation. That's when they took the cent out. I know that there's some issues economically about rounding up and all this stuff about taking the penny out, but we can't control the inflation. So I think the penny and the nickel are on their way out sooner than we think, Joe. I mean. Have you ever tried spending pennies in large amounts?
Somebody does that. They get all mad, right? I'm going to pay off my fine in pennies. They won't even take them, right? And nobody wants them. Patriot Radio News Hour. Yep. We'll be back. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. 10th American Gold Eagles. 1 through 49, 340. 50 or more at $335 a piece at 800-951-0592. Before I was talking about, this is what, year 22 now? This being the best buyer's market I've ever seen. This is like, and it's weird, but this is the best analogy I can come up with, and for people. Remember the housing crash? Right? When was the best time to buy? Right? And you're like, well, gosh, yeah, after the housing crash, that was the best time to buy. And I know what you guys are thinking, but Joe, there hasn't been a gold crash. See, this is where I think people get confused. Gold is simply reacting to what they're doing to fiat money. And what's crashing is fiat money. That's what's crashing. Fiat money is crashing. That is why it's such, and for what, and I think a lot of it, let's be honest about it. A lot of it is, hey, well, right now, I'm waiting. I'm not afraid, right? I like what Trump is doing, or maybe you're like, man, I don't like what he's doing at all, but I'm going to wait and see. The Dow's still at 43,000, so I'm going to wait. And here's the thing: when everybody, and COVID's the prime example. Everybody was shaking, right? It was big trouble, endless money printing, and you saw how expensive premiums get for physical metal. I've never seen premiums this low for physical metals in my entire career selling gold, ever. And the reason is simple. They're sitting there saying we got to try to spend our way out of it. And this is not just the U.S. This is all fiat money in the world. And it's all crashing, Jason, all at the same time. And this is why you're seeing, why are all these central banks buying so damn much of it? Simple. Because they already know. See, they already know the end game. We're just still left to speculate what the end game is going to be. And then everybody's surprised when they find out, Joe and Jason were right. This looks like it's going to happen. And then everybody on the retail end wants to jump back in again. Jump in now. Do it now before everybody else jumps back in. I mean, you get a $20 gold piece for $29.35, $2,935 spots. $2,910. I mean, come on. It's a great time to be buying. Now, it does work the other way. Let's finish it though.
Yeah.
Right? Not great if you're selling right now, right, Jason? You're really getting really below spot pricing right now because that's where the market is.
Although selling now versus 13 months ago, complete price difference, you're still doing very well if you waited a year to sell, Joe.
Right. I know, right? 13 months ago, the gold's $1,000 higher. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour.